everyone, and welcome to TLDR Psychology. Today I'd like to talk with you about how exposures work. These are a cornerstone of anxiety treatment of all different types, be it panic disorder, and phobias, which are kind of like the core, but then also obsessive compulsive disorder, social anxiety, generalized anxiety, PTSD. Anytime you've got a really strong anxiety reaction to a stimulus, something going on the outside, these exposures are fundamental. And essentially how exposures work are that you are desensitizing yourself to a feared stimulus and you are teaching yourself that it actually is not as objectively anxiety provoking as you felt like it was. So if you haven't already watched my video on safety behaviors, I definitely recommend listening to that one as well because it feeds into this one. But essentially, what a lot of very extreme anxiety or panic responses are based around is this idea that something that you're afraid of can have a very bad consequence, some catastrophic outcome that you're imagining. If it's the public speaking or driving in a car, being in a public space, being in an elevator, flying on a plane, whatever it is, you feel like something very bad is going to happen. And so what you do for an exposure is you essentially engage with the stimulus fully. So you want to leave all those safety behaviors behind. You want to really just be there with the thing that you're afraid of. And then, and this is critical, don't run away from it. So you have to stay in that exposure. You have to stay in the elevator. You have to stay in the high place if you're afraid of heights. Whatever it is that's really upsetting you, you stay there until your body starts to physiologically feel better, until you feel your heart rate start to slow, until you feel your muscles start to relax. And the reason for that is that in the past, if you've been avoiding these anxiety-provoking situations, you've been teaching yourself, one, that avoidance, that relief feels good, but second, that's the way that you get relief, that you get relief by avoiding or disengaging and running away. And you need to teach yourself that actually you can stick with it. And the catastrophic outcome that you're worried about isn't going to happen. Now, the thing about exposures as well, it's not just that you do it once and then you're never afraid anymore. Sometimes, but rarely, is that you have to repeat it. And I like to use a metaphor of trying to fill up a cup with water that has a little hole in the bottom. So imagine you're trying to fill up this cup. Every time you do an exposure, it's like putting water into the cup, a bit of water. So if you just wait, you just do it once, the water's going to drain out. It's going to go back down to ground zero and be empty again. Your goal is to fill up this cup. So what happens is that if you repeat that exposure every day for a while, maybe even multiple times a day, you're just adding water faster than the water's coming out. Eventually, that cup's going to fill. And at that point, the hole goes away, the fear is extinguished, to use the conditioning terms. The one other thing to know about exposures is that if you keep a log sheet of them, it can be really helpful. So looking at what we call subjective units of distress. It could be 0 to 10, 0 to 100, but I like to have folks record their anticipatory anxiety, so how anxious they feel before they do their exposure, but thinking about doing it, what their highest point of anxiety was, and then what it got down to by the end of their exposure. And they could also add in some other things in there as you see fit. Things like, did the bad thing happen? How long did it take before your body started to feel better? Treating it kind of like a science experiment. It's just kind of another way to get outside that feeling you have and to almost like study yourself so that you're not wrapped up in those feelings, wrapped up in those thoughts. And you do that over and over again, and eventually you feel better. So this has been TLDR Psychology for this week. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully it's been helpful. If you'd like to learn more, please check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I look forward to seeing you all again soon.